November 2011, EA and EA Black Box released Need for Speed: The Run. Now, back then, none of us really knew it, but this was it, the final curtain. Black Box wasn't just a developer working on Need for Speed, they were the developer. They built the golden era. Ask anybody, even today, what their favorite Need for Speed entry is, and 9 out of 10 of those people will mention a Black Box developed title, whether that's Underground, Underground 2, Most Wanted, Carbon. These are the games that defined a generation of arcade racing fans. But it should come as no surprise that Black Box was struggling to rekindle the magic of those early 2000s triumphs. Pro Street was a great game, it's one of my favorites in the entire series, but it deviated away from the street racing they were known for up until this point. When they attempted to rectify this with Undercover, they failed miserably. So looking back on Need for Speed: The Run is bittersweet in a way. On one hand, we know that this is their last hurrah, but on the other hand, it's a chance to look back and see if Black Box still had any gas left in the tank. It's a chance for Black Box to go out with a bang to prove that they still had the talent and the chops to create a stellar racing experience. Well, did they? Join me today as I take a look back at EA Black Box's final game and if it's worth playing today. My name is Mercy. Enjoy. Need for Speed: The Run was released on November 15th, 2011 for PS3, 360, and PC. It was also released for Wii and 3DS, but this version is totally different and I won't be covering it today. So get subscribed so you don't miss my future video covering it and the rest of the Need for Speed series. I'll be playing the game on PC today, but beware if you choose to play this port. It is a total mess on modern Windows. I suffered from frequent crashes, weird physics issues when the frame rate exceeded 30 FPS, audio issues, and the worst thing of all, missing content. Yeah, some of the DLC was console exclusive and requires mods to unlock on PC. More on that later. So if you see some frame rate discrepancies or hear something weird, that would be why. I don't hold this against the quality of the game, but just be aware of this if you choose to play PC over console. Let's start with the story because The Run actually attempts to have one. The game opens with our main character, Jack, tied to the steering wheel of his Porsche 911 Carrera S inside a junkyard car crusher. Turns out he owes money to the mob and they're willing to do anything to collect that debt. After a short chase through the junkyard, Jack narrowly escapes and meets up with his past associate Sam Harper. She offers you a way out of your mob debt. Enter The Run, a cannonball run race from San Francisco to New York against 200 other drivers. Win the race, take home his cut of the $25 million prize, pay off the mob, and be done with it. On paper, this is a classic high-octane action movie setup. Jack is in a tight bind, and he doesn't really have any other way out of it other than to achieve greatness in this crazy knockout-style tournament race. It gives you a clear goal, high stakes, and a reason to keep going. Jack isn't a particularly complex character, and neither is Sam or any of the other characters you encounter on your trek across America, but they don't really need to be. Rivals are quickly introduced in a loading screen, maybe given a short cutscene before the race, and then never heard from again after you've beaten them. I'd like to see them maybe hyped up a little more, given more screen time, whatever the case may be, but a Razor or Darius type character I just don't think would work very well in a game like this, where you're constantly knocking out other drivers from the tournament. It's insanely satisfying to see that number continue to tick down as you make moves on the track. And trekking across the USA is just such a cool idea. There's a ton of variety in environments here. You're racing across deserts and dense forests, and there's even a part where you're in my home state of Maryland driving on these windy country roads with yellowed autumn leaves all over the road. It's a good looking game for how old it is especially. While the rural tracks take up a majority of the game, there's a good chunk that takes place in more urban environments too. The game takes you through San Francisco and Vegas, Denver, Chicago, Cleveland, and finally New York City itself. And like the rural environments, there's variety here too, with congested city streets full of props to crash into and cold industrial zones. Like I said, this game just really looks good on PC even today. Sure, you can kind of see its age, especially with the character models and some of the cutscenes, but the art direction really carries it. I think the on-track experience is phenomenal, whenever the game decides to work anyway. Out of all of the missions I can think of in the run, nothing quite captures what the run is trying to do better than Independence Pass in Colorado. You're driving down this crazy tall mountain, sliding across ice-covered roads, pulling 100-degree turns through hairpins, all while rocks are falling in front of you and an avalanche is crashing down behind you, on top of racing all of your other opponents. This, to me, is, in a nutshell, what the run is. It's this cinematic, balls-to-the-wall, exciting game, and no mission in this game shows this off better to me. There are more examples of this, but this is the best one. Unfortunately, I do have to mention a downside to the run. It's these dang on-foot sequences. These aren't typical, third-person freedom to move around like GTA. I did read somewhere that they were planning on doing this, but they kind of had to scale it back. And how they scaled it back is to have cutscenes with QTEs. Yeah. Awful, no good QTEs. In their defense, I can see what they were going for. They want you to really pay attention and to be a part of the cutscenes. I understand that angle, but I don't like them. I think they're unnecessary. You're mashing buttons to escape a car, or you're running from dogs or police, or you're pressing the right button at the right time to jump off a rooftop. I just don't think it's necessary. These cutscenes would be just as good with or without the QTEs. So, thankfully, they only make up a small portion of this game's campaign, and they're not really difficult. They're not like something where you're going to be sitting there sweating, smashing the buttons. So, that's good, I guess. Now, all of this spectacle means nothing if the handling is poor, and I guess that sort of leads me into my next point. The handling in Need for Speed The Run is a big departure from the previous titles. There's just much less freedom here. It almost feels like your car is on a rail or some kind of set path. I'm not saying it feels like a slot car, but there's definitely some pull to keep your car straight. The game is very linear, it's very cinematic, and the cars are heavy, maybe heavier than they've ever felt in this series, and I just found it very difficult to drift, especially on those windy mountain roads I mentioned earlier. Is this really a bad thing? I think that depends. For me, I can understand the shift. The game is cinematic, like I said. There's less freedom here. They really want you to see all of the flashy explosions and the things happening around you. But at the same time, I can't feel like this is kind of a downgrade. It's something I can get used to. It is something I got used to. I beat the game, but it's far from my favorite in the series. Speaking a bit more on the cinematics, that action movie sort of vibe extends to the soundtrack. Black Box Games historically have nailed this aspect of their games, but instead of relying on a licensed playlist, the run features an original orchestral score composed by Brian Tyler. This is the guy behind soundtracks for 7 of the Fast and Furious movies, a bunch of Marvel movies, and a ton more. They blend this cinematic score with the usual licensed tracks, though instead of the usual edgy hard rock and nu metal and metalcore type stuff that Black Box Games are usually known for, the run primarily has garage rock, punk, bluesy, alternative type stuff. Think like the Black Keys or Rival Sons. There are a few metal tracks on here, like there's a Mastodon song, as well as Ministry's always amazing NWO and a Red Fang song, but this is overshadowed by that previously mentioned garage rock. I am a fan of this kind of music. I listen to it every once in a while. I'm not like the biggest fan ever, but I do kind of feel like it's a bit at odds with that orchestral score. Garage rock just doesn't scream epic action movie to me. It's more like long road trip type music. Maybe you have a different opinion, but I found a lot of these songs to be pretty low energy in comparison. Just to be clear, I love the orchestral score, don't love the rest of the soundtrack. I'm somewhat also torn on the roster of cars here. Don't get me wrong, the selection is solid. You've got a great spread of American muscle, Japanese tuners, and European supercars. Nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary in my opinion. I did like seeing the old El Camino in the game, which I don't believe was a part of any previous Need for Speed game, as well as the more modern cars like a McLaren MP412C and a Lamborghini Aventador. I will say customization has taken another huge blow with the run, where cars can only really have their visuals changed. As far as I'm aware, stats don't change if you swap the body kits or anything like that, but they're preset. It's something that you can't swap specific bumpers and, mix and match spoilers and that sort of thing. It's just one body kit, and you can change the color of the car. That's it. Kind of a bummer, and it's something I really enjoyed about this series and about those early black box games. I do like how you switch cars in this game, though. It works how Burnout Paradise did it, with car selection taking place at gas stations off the side of the road. I'm just confused why performance customization wasn't a part of this. I think it would have been really neat to kind of start with this low tier 1 car, and you just sort of upgrade it as you go across the US and go through the tiers and, upgrade your car, get faster, get more upgrades, all sorts of stuff like that. But instead, you kind of just have to swap your car to a higher tier when it tells you to. My disappointment doesn't end there, though, and my biggest issue with the run really is with its length and its content after the fact. You can beat the campaign in 3 hours. No joke, 3 hours and you're done with the game. Credits roll, over, done. Which, if you're looking at it in a positive light, you could say that, maybe if you're someone who likes to replay games a lot, this could be good. It gives you a good chance to try out different cars and different, shortcuts and learn the tracks faster. But for me, once I've kind of seen what the game has to offer, there's little incentive or variety to go back and experience it again, especially in a very linear game like this. So, what exactly is there to do after you've beaten the game? There was a multiplayer mode back in the day, which has been offline for a few years now, unfortunately, so I can't really show that. So instead, we're going to be tackling the challenge series. The challenge series in this game is pretty substantial, I would say. There are 10 sets of challenges, each one representing the 10 stages from the single-player campaign, and each of those sets contains 5 different races. There's also a set of challenges for buying the limited edition, as well as some promotional challenges and DLC. Each of these challenges will have a set car class limit or a specific car you need to use for it. I found that the set challenges in the game were okay, I guess. They're nothing special, just a time waster, really. They unlocked unique cars you can't get elsewhere, so that was definitely a reason to play them, but I didn't really find them to be all that special or different from the campaign. Where the challenge series really shines, though, is in its DLC, where they've added 7 more sets of challenges, with 3 of them recreating events from 3 of Black Box's previous games in the series: Underground and Underground 2, Most Wanted, and Carbon. How cool is that? What's not cool, though, is that these are exclusive to the console versions of the game. What were they thinking? I did install a mod to get them working on PC, and while I'm able to play them flawlessly, it is missing the music. For example, the final race of all 3 of these challenges puts you up against Eddie, Razor, and Darius. Razor's race is supposed to play One Good Reason by Cell Dweller in the background, but it doesn't on PC. It's a shame, but it is what it is. Keeping that in mind, these missions are very short and sweet. You can beat them all in under half an hour, and that's just not all of the Underground missions. I mean all of Underground, Underground 2, Most Wanted, and Carbon, all under half an hour. But it is a nice way to throw it back to Black Box's heyday, and it sort of wraps their time up well. Wrapping this video up, I do believe that Need for Speed The Run is a fun game. Though if I bought this game back in the day, I think I would have been pretty pissed off. $60 for just a few hours worth of campaign content would have probably set me off and annoyed me. I think I would have taken this disc back to GameStop. And while the challenge series can be fun, most of that fun came in the form of DLC updates that dropped after the game launched. And us on PC didn't even get it, so yeah. Did they go out with a bang? Did they still have the special sauce? It's somewhere in the middle. Need for Speed The Run isn't this grand, underrated masterpiece, but at the same time, it's not a total disaster like Undercover was either, even if the PC port is a mess. For me, it lands somewhere in the middle. It's incredibly short with strange design decisions, but among that is an ambitious, unique, and, in all honesty, visually stunning game that stands out among the other releases in the franchise. I've said it many times in the past, and I'll say it again now. I appreciate it when developers try something new and they experiment, and that's exactly what Black Box did here. It didn't rekindle the golden age, but you know what? It didn't really need to. For a quick weekend play, Need for Speed The Run is a great time, and I think it's worth checking out. But enough about me, it's time to turn it over to you guys. How do you feel about Need for Speed The Run? And where does it rank in the series for you? I would love to read your comments. I try to read every comment posted. Before I go, a huge shout out to my highest tier Patreon members, Arcade Racing Central, and to my newest member, David Beck-Ham, as well as all of my supporters on Patreon. You guys are awesome. My name is Mercy. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.